He was known as a man who had everything: money, power, respect, and control. People said his name with caution and admiration, because he was one of the richest businessmen in the city. His days started early and ended late, always filled with meetings, phone calls, and decisions that affected hundreds of people. To him, life was a system that worked only when rules were followed and efficiency was maintained. Emotions were weaknesses, and sympathy was something he rarely showed. The millionaire lived in a large mansion on the quiet side of the city, far away from noise and ordinary life. The house was beautiful, modern, and perfectly clean. Every room looked like it belonged in a magazine, yet it felt cold and empty. Expensive furniture, shiny floors, and tall glass windows filled the space, but there was little warmth. Staff moved silently through the house, doing their jobs without asking questions. Everything ran like a machine, just the way he liked it. People believed that money could solve all problems, and for most of his life, that had been true for him. When something went wrong, he paid to fix it. When someone disappointed him, he replaced them. He trusted numbers, contracts, and results, not feelings or faith. He did not believe in miracles, luck, or destiny. He believed only in hard work and control. Despite his success, there was one part of his life he could not fully control: his daughter. She was the only person who mattered to him beyond business. Though he rarely showed it, everything he did was partly for her future. He wanted to give her the best life, the best education, and the best care. Money was never a limit when it came to her. Every morning, before leaving for work, he passed by her room. Sometimes he stopped at the door and watched quietly. She sat in her wheelchair, looking out the window or playing with her toys. Her smile was soft, but there was a sadness in her eyes that no amount of money could hide. He never stayed long, because those moments made him uncomfortable. They reminded him of something he could not fix. Doctors visited the house regularly. Specialists from different countries had examined her over the years. Reports, scans, and test results filled drawers in his office. Each expert gave advice, treatments, and exercises. Some brought hope, others brought excuses, but none brought real change. The millionaire listened carefully, paid the bills, and followed instructions, yet deep inside, frustration slowly grew. At work, he was feared and respected. Employees saw him as strong and unbreakable. No one dared to argue with him, because he always believed he was right. Failure was unacceptable in his world. He expected results, not explanations. That same mindset followed him home. He wanted answers, progress, and solutions, and when they did not come, his patience grew thin. Friends admired his success but felt distant from him. Invitations were often declined, conversations stayed shallow, and personal topics were avoided. He did not know how to talk about pain or fear. He had trained himself to stay calm, even when life felt heavy. Crying, hoping, or praying were things he left to others. At night, when the house was quiet, he sometimes sat alone in his study, staring at the city lights through the window. In those moments, the strong businessman felt tired, not of work, but of pretending that everything was under control. He thought about how unfair it was that money could buy almost anything except a cure for his child. These thoughts made him angry, and anger was easier for him to handle than sadness. The millionaire believed the world respected strength and success, not kindness or belief. In his mind, people who talked about miracles were fools, and people who trusted strangers were careless. He trusted systems, not people, and so, when life was about to challenge everything he believed, he had no idea that his perfectly controlled world was already beginning to crack. This was the world he lived in: rich, powerful, organized, and emotionally distant, a world where money ruled, logic led, and hope had slowly faded without him realizing it. From the moment his daughter was born, something felt different. She was quiet, fragile, and smaller than expected. At first, doctors told him not to worry, saying every child grows at their own pace. He trusted them, because he trusted professionals more than instincts. Months passed, then years, and while other children began crawling, standing, and running, his daughter remained still, watching the world from the ground. The first real fear came when she tried to stand and fell instantly. Her legs did not respond the way they should have. Tests were done, scans were ordered, and medical words filled the air, words he did not like hearing: conditions, limitations, long-term care. The doctors explained everything calmly, but their calm made him angry. He wanted solutions, not explanations. Soon, wheelchairs, support braces, and therapy schedules became part of daily life. His daughter learned early how to smile through discomfort. She rarely complained, even when exercises hurt or when frustration showed on her face. She watched other children play from a distance, clapping for them instead of joining them. That silent acceptance hurt him more than any diagnosis. He spent millions trying to change her fate. The best hospitals welcomed him, not just because of his hope, but because of his wealth. Specialists flew in from abroad, promising advanced treatments and experimental therapies. Some were honest, others were hopeful, and a few were simply greedy. Each time, he believed this might be the one that works. His daughter became used to hospital rooms and white walls. She knew the smell of medicine better than the smell of playgrounds. Nurses became familiar faces, and medical machines replaced toys. Still, she remained gentle and kind, thanking people even when she was tired. Her strength showed in small ways: the way she held his hand tightly during painful procedures, the way she smiled at strangers. At home, her room was designed to be perfect: soft colors, comfortable furniture, and everything adjusted to her needs. Yet no matter how beautiful the room was, it could not give her what she wanted most: the ability to walk freely. Sometimes she asked simple questions that had no simple answers. "Papa, will I ever run?" He always replied with confidence, even when he was unsure. He hated seeing pity in people's eyes. Visitors often spoke softly around her, as if she were fragile glass. He wanted her to be treated like any other child, but reality always stood in the way. At school, special arrangements were made, special attention given. Even kindness felt like a reminder of what she could not do. As she grew older, she became more aware of her condition. She noticed the way people stared, the way some children whispered. She learned patience before she learned freedom, yet she never lost her curiosity. She loved watching birds, asking questions, and imagining stories where she was strong and fast. In her imagination, she ran without pain or limits. The millionaire watched all of this from a distance he never intended to create. He provided everything: money, care, comfort, but struggled to give emotional presence. He did not know how to face her pain without feeling helpless, so he focused on solutions, schedules, and results, avoiding moments where feelings took over. Late at night, he reviewed medical files alone, reading the same words again and again: chronic, complex, unlikely. Those words followed him everywhere. No matter how successful he was during the day, nights reminded him of his failure as a father who could not fix what mattered most. His daughter never blamed him. She trusted him completely, believing that her father could do anything. That belief scared him more than anything else, because for the first time in his life, money was not enough, power was useless, and control was slipping away. This condition did not just affect her body, it shaped their lives, their routines, and their silence. It slowly built a wall between the man he was and the father he wanted to be, and without knowing it, this silent struggle prepared the ground for a moment that would challenge everything he believed about strength, care, and miracles. It was an ordinary afternoon when everything began to shift. The millionaire had returned home earlier than usual, frustrated after a long meeting that brought no results. The house was quiet, almost too quiet, as staff moved carefully around him, trying not to draw attention. He barely noticed them, his mind busy with numbers, contracts, and the same problem he could never solve. That day, a temporary cleaner had been hired through an agency, someone to handle deep cleaning while a few staff members were away. The millionaire did not care who it was, as long as the work was done properly. To him, workers came and went, faces without stories, names without importance. The cleaner arrived quietly, wearing simple clothes and carrying basic supplies. There was nothing special about the appearance, no confidence, no fear, just calm movement and steady eyes. While cleaning the hallway near the daughter's room, the cleaner heard a soft laugh, curious but respectful. The cleaner glanced inside and saw the little girl sitting near the window. She was playing alone, moving her toys slowly, humming to herself. Sunlight fell gently on her face. The cleaner stopped for a moment, not out of pity, but out of attention. There was something gentle and strong in the child's expression, something that did not match the silence around her. Most people avoided looking too closely, afraid of feeling uncomfortable, but the cleaner stepped closer and smiled, offering a simple greeting. The girl smiled back easily, without hesitation, as if she was used to finding comfort in strangers. They exchanged a few soft words, nothing serious, just small talk about her toys and the birds outside. The millionaire noticed this interaction from a distance. His first instinct was irritation. He did not like staff engaging unnecessarily with his daughter. He believed emotional distance was safer. He was about to interrupt when he heard the cleaner say something unexpected, spoken gently, without drama. "I can help clean you, and you will walk one day." The words were not loud, not dramatic, just calm and certain. The room went still. The millionaire froze for a second, then let out a short laugh. To him, the sentence sounded foolish, almost insulting. Years of doctors, machines, and medical science reduced to a casual promise from a cleaner. He stepped forward immediately, questioning the cleaner's behavior. His voice was sharp, demanding an explanation. The cleaner did not argue or apologize excessively. Instead, the response was simple and respectful. There was no claim of magic, no challenge, just a belief spoken quietly. The millionaire dismissed it as nonsense. He had heard too many false hopes before. He warned the cleaner to focus on work and avoid saying such things again. Inside, though, something small stirred, not hope, but curiosity mixed with irritation. The cleaner nodded and continued working, moving through the house calmly. No further comments were made, no attempts to convince anyone. That quiet behavior confused the millionaire more than bold claims would have. He expected defensiveness or fear, but saw neither. Over the next few hours, he noticed something strange. His daughter seemed different, not physically changed, but emotionally lighter. She laughed more, spoke more, and seemed less withdrawn. When asked why she was smiling, she simply said the cleaner was kind and listened to her. Kindness was not something the millionaire valued much. He believed results mattered more than feelings, yet that evening, he caught himself watching the cleaner more closely, the way hands moved gently, the way words were chosen carefully, the way patience replaced urgency. The cleaner did not treat the child like a problem to be solved, but like a person to be respected. No one else had done that so naturally. Therapists came with schedules, doctors came with plans, family came with worry, but this stranger came with presence. When the cleaning was finished, the cleaner prepared to leave without asking for extra payment or attention. Before leaving, the cleaner looked once more at the girl and said quietly that care and patience mattered more than force, then walked away. That night, the millionaire could not sleep. He replayed the moment again and again. The words still sounded unrealistic, yet the calm confidence behind them disturbed him. He did not believe in miracles, but he could not deny the shift he had seen in his daughter's mood. For the first time in a long while, a stranger had entered his perfectly controlled world and left behind a crack, small but noticeable, and without realizing it, that brief encounter planted a question he had never allowed himself to ask before. What if healing was not only about money, machines, or control, but something simpler he had always ignored? The real test came sooner than the millionaire expected. One afternoon, one of the regular therapists canceled a session due to an emergency. The house fell into an unusual silence. No exercises, no instructions, no schedules for that hour, just empty time, something the millionaire disliked deeply. His daughter sat quietly in her wheelchair, looking disappointed. She had grown used to routines, even painful ones, because they gave her a sense of purpose. Seeing her expression, the cleaner gently asked if she wanted to try some light movements. Nothing serious, just stretching and sitting balance. The request was soft, almost careful. The millionaire overheard this and immediately reacted. His first instinct was to say no, his mind filled with warnings, risks, and rules. He had trusted professionals for years, not strangers with good intentions. He stepped forward, his voice firm, reminding the cleaner of boundaries. The cleaner did not argue. Instead, the cleaner simply explained that nothing would be forced, nothing medical, nothing dangerous, just helping the child sit straight, breathe calmly, and feel supported. The words were slow and respectful, not defensive. The daughter looked at her father with hopeful eyes. She did not ask for permission out loud, but her expression did. That look stopped him. For a moment, he saw not a patient, not a condition, but a child asking for trust. Against his better judgment, he agreed, only for a few minutes, only while he watched closely. He told himself this was harmless, a way to prove that nothing special would happen. The cleaner moved carefully, adjusting the chair, placing cushions, supporting the girl's back and legs. There was no rush, no pressure. The cleaner spoke softly, encouraging her to listen to her body, to stop if anything hurt. The atmosphere felt different from therapy sessions, calmer, less demanding. The millionaire stood nearby, arms crossed, eyes sharp, ready to step in. He expected failure, discomfort, or fear, but instead, he saw his daughter relax, her breathing slowed, her shoulders loosened, she looked more comfortable than he had seen her in a long time. After a while, the cleaner suggested trying to place her feet on the ground, still supported, still safe. This was something therapists had done many times, but today felt different. There was no command, no expectation, only encouragement. The daughter hesitated, then nodded, her feet touched the floor, her legs trembled slightly, the millionaire's heart tightened, memories of falls and pain rushed back, he almost stopped it right there. But the cleaner reminded her gently that shaking was okay, that effort was part of learning. The cleaner stayed close, hands ready to support, never forcing, never pulling. For a brief moment, nothing happened. The girl stayed seated, feet grounded, then she straightened her back slightly, her eyes widened, she smiled, not because she stood, but because she felt something different, something active. "It feels warm," she said softly. That simple sentence sent a strange chill through the millionaire. Warmth was not a medical term, it was not something found in reports or scans, yet it sounded real, honest. They stopped soon after, exactly as promised, no pushing further, no dramatic ending. The girl was returned safely to her chair, smiling, proud of herself. The cleaner thanked her for trying and stepped back. The millionaire said nothing, he nodded stiffly and walked away, pretending the moment meant nothing. But inside, his thoughts were loud and restless. He had seen his daughter engaged, motivated, and calm in a way he rarely saw during formal sessions. That evening, he reviewed her past medical notes again, looking for explanations. He told himself it was coincidence, posture, psychology, anything but progress. Still, the image of her smiling stayed with him. The next day, his daughter asked if she could try again, just sitting, just breathing, just feeling strong for a moment. She did not say the cleaner promised anything, she only said it made her feel brave. Brave was another word he was not used to hearing in medical discussions. It made him uncomfortable, because bravery suggested effort from her, not solutions from him. Reluctantly, he allowed it again, then again the following day, always small, always careful, always watched closely, and slowly, without announcements or celebrations, something began to change. Not a miracle, not a sudden cure, but a shift in energy, in confidence, in willingness to try. The daughter no longer waited passively for help, she participated, she believed movement was possible, even if difficult. The millionaire still called it a joke in his mind, still refused to name it hope, but deep inside, doubt was growing, doubt about his certainty, doubt about his limits. What he thought was harmless tolerance was becoming permission, and that permission was opening a door he had kept locked for years, a door that would soon reveal something he was completely unprepared to face when the moment finally arrived before his eyes. Days passed, and what began as a small allowance slowly became part of the household's quiet routine. The millionaire did not announce it, did not approve it openly, but he did not stop it either. The cleaner continued coming, moving through the house with the same calm presence, never asking for praise, never explaining too much. What changed was not dramatic, but steady. The daughter started looking forward to those moments, not because she believed she would suddenly walk, but because she felt seen. During the gentle sessions, the cleaner spoke to her like a normal child, asking what she liked, what scared her, what made her happy. No one else asked those questions anymore. The exercises remained simple, sitting straight, breathing slowly, placing feet firmly on the ground, lifting legs just a little, stopping when tired. There were no strict counts, no pressure to perform. Some days were better, some worse, and the cleaner treated both the same, praising effort, not results. The millionaire observed closely, always alert, always ready to stop everything. Yet each day he found fewer reasons to interfere. His daughter complained less, resisted less, and smiled more. She no longer saw movement as punishment, but as something she chose to try. One afternoon, something small but unusual happened. While sitting with support, the daughter managed to hold herself upright longer than before. No one clapped, no one celebrated loudly. The cleaner simply nodded and said she did well. That quiet reaction somehow made the moment feel more real. Later, when the doctor visited, routine tests showed slight improvements in muscle response, nothing dramatic, nothing worth headlines, but enough to raise questions. The doctor explained it could be motivation, mindset, or consistency. The millionaire nodded, pretending this confirmed his logic, yet inside, his confidence began to weaken. At night, he found himself replaying the days in his mind, the cleaner's patience, the daughter's determination, the small changes that could not be measured easily. He hated uncertainty, but now uncertainty followed him everywhere. He remembered how he used to believe that effort alone built success, that discipline and consistency shaped results. Those beliefs had guided his entire career, yet when it came to his daughter, he had relied only on experts and systems, leaving no room for her own strength. The cleaner never took control, never replaced professionals. Instead, the cleaner worked around them, filling the empty spaces that machines and schedules could not reach. Emotional safety, trust, and belief, words the millionaire rarely used. One evening, he overheard his daughter speaking to herself softly, encouraging her legs the same way the cleaner encouraged her, saying it was okay to try and okay to rest. That moment struck him deeply. His daughter was learning to support herself, something no money could buy. He felt a strange mix of fear and hope, fear that he had underestimated something important, hope that maybe he had not failed completely as a father. These emotions made him uncomfortable, because they were beyond control. The staff noticed the changes too. They spoke quietly among themselves, careful not to offend the millionaire, but their eyes showed curiosity and surprise. The house no longer felt as cold as before. Laughter appeared more often, even if softly. The millionaire began staying home more, watching, listening, learning without admitting it. He noticed how the cleaner adjusted tone, never rushed the child, never expressed disappointment. This approach went against everything he practiced in business, yet it seemed to work. Still, he warned himself daily not to expect too much. He told himself improvements could stop at any moment, that disappointment would be harder if hope grew too strong, so he stayed distant, reserved, pretending this was temporary. But deep inside, the wall he built for years was cracking. He was beginning to understand that healing was not only about fixing a body, but about rebuilding trust in effort, courage, and patience. Part 5 was not about walking, it was about preparing the ground, strengthening what had been ignored for too long. The daughter was changing, not just physically, but emotionally, and the millionaire, though still silent, was changing too. He did not know it yet, but these quiet days of care were leading toward a moment he could not explain away, a moment where denial would no longer protect him, a moment where seeing would replace doubt, and his world would freeze in a way money never could. The change came quietly, almost imperceptibly, but it was there. The daughter had started to notice her own body in ways she hadn't before. Sitting with support from the cleaner, she began to test her strength, shifting her weight slightly, feeling how her legs responded, and even trying to lift her feet for a few seconds. Each attempt was small, cautious, and deliberate, but it was progress, something no one had seen in years. The millionaire observed from the doorway, arms crossed, ready to intervene at the first sign of danger. He told himself it was only coincidence, a fluke of positioning, or a momentary stretch. Yet when he looked again, he saw her hold herself longer than she had before, a flicker of determination in her eyes. Something inside him stirred, a feeling he had not allowed himself in years. Hope, cautious and restrained, but hope nonetheless. Doctors and therapists had long warned him about false optimism, saying that progress like this could be psychological, temporary, or merely the result of slight posture changes. But the millionaire had noticed something different, something far beyond clinical expectation. It was not just movement, it was awareness, confidence, and a spark of desire to try. The daughter was no longer waiting passively for others to act. She wanted to act herself. One afternoon, the cleaner suggested a simple new exercise, leaning slightly forward from the chair while keeping balance. Nothing forceful, just a gentle test of control. The daughter hesitated, her eyes meeting her father's across the room. There was fear, but also trust, something deeper than he had ever seen before. He expected her to pull back, but instead, she nodded slowly, gathering courage. The cleaner's hands hovered lightly, ready to support if needed, but never taking over. The girl leaned, shifted, and balanced for a few precious seconds, then leaned again, longer this time, feeling her legs respond. The millionaire's breath caught, his mind raced with explanations, all scientific, logical, and yet inadequate. None could explain the subtle strength building before his eyes. Wordlessly, the daughter began practicing this tiny motion daily, not because someone forced her, but because she felt capable. because she had learned that careful attention, patience, and encouragement mattered more than rigid routines or expensive devices. Each small movement became a quiet victory, a whisper of possibility, and each time she succeeded, her confidence grew. The millionaire, who had once dismissed all emotional gestures as distractions, now found himself studying the pattern, watching how encouragement, gentle repetition, and patience produced results no money could force. He realized that all the experts, machines, and medications in the world had failed to create what was happening here: willingness, determination, and belief in herself. One evening, while observing from a corner, he saw something that made him freeze. The daughter, without assistance, shifted forward from her chair, placed her feet firmly on the floor, and lifted herself slightly. Her hands rested lightly on the armrests, but her posture was upright, confident, deliberate. A small smile appeared on her face, one of triumph and pride, and for a fleeting second, time seemed to stop. The millionaire could not move, could not speak. His mind raced, trying to rationalize, deny, or dismiss what he had just seen, but he could not. The proof was before him, unmistakable, undeniable. Something profound had begun, something no amount of money could buy or control. The realization struck him with a force he had not expected. That little girl, fragile and quiet for so long, was beginning to reclaim herself. From that day forward, the dynamic of the house changed subtly but forever. The daughter practiced more willingly, encouraged by her own progress. The millionaire, though silent, began to pay attention to details he had long ignored: patience, emotional support, and the quiet power of belief. The cleaner continued to guide, never claiming credit, but leaving the daughter with confidence she had never known. Doctors remained puzzled, therapists intrigued, and the millionaire silent, overwhelmed by what he had witnessed. The moment had shifted everything, laying the foundation for the final breakthrough, the moment that would stop him completely, and make him realize that healing had always been more than science, wealth, or control. It was about presence, trust, and courage. The house, once cold and rigid, began to feel alive, filled with quiet victories, small smiles, and hope that could no longer be ignored. The daughter had taken her first steps toward possibility, and the millionaire, whether he admitted it or not, had started his first steps toward understanding that life's greatest lessons could not be bought, only experienced, witnessed, and believed. It was a morning like any other, yet it carried a weight the millionaire could not have predicted. His daughter sat in her wheelchair by the window, sunlight spilling across the floor, her small hands fiddling with a toy, yet her eyes carried determination, a quiet energy he had never fully noticed before. That energy was different from compliance or expectation. It was self-driven, a spark of courage. The cleaner arrived as usual, moving silently through the house, tools in hand, but focus entirely on the child. Today, however, there was an unspoken tension, something delicate that hung between them. The daughter seemed to sense it too, sitting straighter, holding her head high, ready to try what she had never done before. "Are you ready?" the cleaner asked softly, voice calm, steady, almost ritualistic. The daughter nodded, small but firm. Her fingers gripped the chair as if testing her own strength. The millionaire watched from across the room, arms folded, heart thundering, mind racing, ready to intervene at any moment. The process began slowly, deliberately. The daughter leaned forward slightly, feet touching the floor, muscles trembling. The cleaner's hands hovered lightly, supporting her balance but not taking control. Step by step, moment by moment, she shifted her weight, tested her legs, and adjusted posture. Each movement was small, careful, measured, but full of intent. The millionaire's breath caught when she lifted herself just a little more than she ever had before. No words, no announcements, just a subtle, almost imperceptible lift. But to him, it was monumental, a shift he could not rationalize, not dismiss, not explain away. The world seemed to pause for that fraction of a second. And then it happened, a miracle in the quietest way. She pushed herself further, balancing briefly, legs trembling yet holding firm, her face lit with a mix of surprise, pride, and joy. For the first time, she was upright on her own, however momentarily, a movement so small, yet so enormous that it made everything else fade around the edges. The millionaire froze, utterly still, unable to breathe. His mind reeled, refusing to accept what his eyes clearly saw. How could this be? Years of failure, millions spent, specialists, treatments, and endless schedules had not produced this, yet here it was, undeniable, right before him, raw and real, his daughter standing, if only for a few seconds. The cleaner remained calm, encouraging without pressure, letting her find her own balance. There was no fanfare, no dramatic gestures, just steady guidance, allowing the child's confidence to grow naturally. The simplicity of it stunned him. How had such a gentle, ordinary approach succeeded where everything else had failed? Tears threatened his eyes, a sensation he had long buried. He could not move, could not speak. The world he had built on control, precision, and certainty seemed to collapse, leaving only this moment, this small, fragile, breathtakingly human moment. It was a lesson he had never anticipated, a truth that could not be bought or forced. She wobbled slightly, then returned to her chair, smiling, glowing with pride. The millionaire could hardly contain his emotions. He wanted to rush forward, to congratulate, to lift her into his arms, but he stayed rooted, watching silently, letting the moment speak for itself. It was hers, not his, and that made it sacred. For the first time, he realized the depth of what he had missed. Years of focusing on solutions, outcomes, and control had blinded him to what truly mattered: presence, patience, encouragement, belief, simple, human things that could not be measured in money or medical charts. These were the tools that had finally worked. The cleaner quietly packed up and left shortly after, leaving the daughter smiling and glowing. The millionaire remained frozen, replaying the moment over and over in his mind. He had been wrong, not about the world, but about what mattered. The moment had stopped him completely, forcing him to confront emotions, humility, and the limits of power. From that day, nothing would be the same. The daughter had proven that progress came from courage and belief, not money or authority, and the millionaire, who had once thought he controlled everything, began to understand that life's most extraordinary changes often came in the quietest, simplest ways. The moment had frozen him, not in fear, but in awe, as he finally saw what hope, care, and trust could achieve. The house felt different after that morning, almost alive in a way the millionaire had never noticed. The quiet routines continued, but they no longer carried the same emptiness. His daughter moved through the day with a new energy, small but unmistakable. She tried things on her own, reaching for toys, balancing briefly, and smiling at her own progress. Each attempt, though tiny, was a victory that filled the house with warmth, something money had never been able to buy. The millionaire observed from a distance, still careful not to interfere, yet he found himself more present than ever. He noticed the subtle shifts in her posture, the determination in her eyes, the pride in her small achievements. Slowly, he began to understand that these were not random moments, but the result of consistency, care, and patience, values he had long ignored in the pursuit of perfection and control. The cleaner had returned a few times, always quietly guiding, always patient, yet never seeking recognition. The daughter greeted the cleaner with excitement and trust, sharing what she had tried on her own. There was no exaggeration, no demand for praise, only genuine growth and encouragement. The millionaire watched silently, realizing that the cleaner had given something far more valuable than physical exercises: the belief that she could do things for herself. Doctors and specialists continued their visits, still amazed by the subtle progress. They ran tests and examined her, trying to explain what had happened. But the millionaire knew, deep down, that the change was not just medical, it was emotional, psychological, a shift in confidence and courage that no scan could capture, something far more powerful than any treatment he had purchased. At first, he struggled with the idea that money had not been the solution, that his countless efforts and investments had failed to produce what this simple, patient guidance had achieved. But slowly, humility crept in, softening the rigid walls he had built around himself. He began to see the world differently, realizing that some of life's most important lessons could not be bought or controlled. His daughter continued to practice, taking more small steps, leaning forward, testing her strength, guided by her own determination and the quiet support of those who believed in her. Each day brought a new milestone, each effort a reminder that growth came from persistence, encouragement, and trust, not just technology, money, or expertise. The millionaire found himself reflecting deeply, remembering his earlier impatience, his reliance on control and results. He realized how much he had missed, how many moments with his daughter he had ignored in his pursuit of perfection. He began to change, not overnight, but gradually, learning to value presence, attention, and quiet support over authority and dominance. One evening, as he watched his daughter attempt to balance on her own, smiling when she succeeded, He understood the depth of the transformation. It was not just about walking, it was about resilience, trust, and love, the invisible threads that connected them. The cleaner, unseen but profoundly influential, had quietly given her the gift of belief, and in doing so, had reshaped the life of a man who thought he controlled everything. The millionaire finally approached his daughter that night, kneeling beside her, speaking gently in a way he rarely did. He did not offer instructions, corrections, or demands, only presence, encouragement, and a promise to support her no matter what. It was a moment of connection that surpassed everything money had ever bought, a moment of true human understanding. From that day forward, the mansion felt alive, not because of wealth or luxury, but because of growth, courage, and the quiet power of care. The daughter continued her progress, walking with support, then independently, proving that hope, patience, and determination could overcome limitations, and the millionaire, once frozen by disbelief and control, now moved forward changed, humbled, and wiser, finally understanding that the greatest miracles in life are born from belief, love, and patience. Not wealth, status, or power. The story ended not with fanfare, but with quiet triumph. A father and daughter learning together, the cleaner quietly left, leaving behind a legacy far greater than cleaning or words, a legacy of courage, trust, and the extraordinary power of human care. And for the millionaire, the lesson was clear: some miracles cannot be bought, they must be nurtured, witnessed, and believed.